This video is on relations versus functions. We know how to tell if a relation is a function in words and on a graph. Now we're going to write some examples of functions. So an example of a function, if I'm looking at a set of coordinates, so if I give a set of coordinates such as 1, 3, 4, 3, 6, 8, and that's my set, so I have 3 coordinates. This would be a function. The reason this is a function is because if we look at the x values, all of the x values are different. So all x values are different. This will automatically mean it's a function. I do not have to look at the y values at all because a function is based off of the x values. The only time we look at the y values is if the x's are repeating. But since all of the x values are different, we don't have to look at the y values at all. Another method of looking at relations is a mapping diagram. When I have 2 circles like this, and I call one the x's and one the y's, or the input and the output, and I'll just put some numbers in here. So 1, 2, 3, and then I'll put 4, 3 over here on the y's. Now, in order for this to be a function, I can draw an arrow from 1 to 4, so that is a coordinate of 1, 4, and then 2, 3, and then I can also go from 3 to 3. Now, this is still a function because if I look at my arrows on my x's, only on my x's, I have 1 arrow coming from 1, 1 arrow coming from 2, and 1 arrow coming from 3. This is why it's a function. I do not have to see what it goes to on the y's. I'm looking at how many are on my x's. So 1 on each x. So we can say 1 arrow coming from each x. That's why it is a function. So we have a set of coordinates. We also have a mapping diagram, but we can also look at it on a graph. So in a third example, so I will have my coordinate plane. This will be just my coordinate plane. This is my x-axis, this is my y-axis, and I'm going to draw a graph that will represent a function. So it's going to look something like this. So this is the actual graph I'm looking at. So to determine if it is a function on the graph, we do a vertical line test. Now I'm going to draw multiple vertical lines to see how many times it crosses the graph. Not the coordinate plane, not the axes, but the graph itself, this curved line. So if I draw a vertical line here, it'll cross once. If I draw a vertical line here, it'll cross once. If I draw a vertical line here, it'll cross once. If I draw a vertical line here, it'll cross just once. So all of these, it's crossing only once, and I can draw as many vertical lines as I want, but it will still only cross one time. So this is a function because all vertical lines cross the graph once. Again, it's the graph itself, not the axis. Because if I was talking about the axis as well, this would be bad. But I'm talking specifically just the graph itself. These are all examples of functions looking at coordinates, a mapping diagram with the arrows, because the input, and then the graph itself. So this passes the vertical line test.